So there's a topic that comes after every event. I think it's kind of the we don't really address it. It's kind of the elephant in the room that we acknowledge exists, but I don't think anyone really talks about it deeply. And so I wanted to do this video on commentary bias, what it is and what it isn't, because I feel sometimes, there are a mix of people, and I think there are the people that actually have a valid claim on the existence of commentary bias, and there are people that will call anything biased if they just don't like the commentary. And what I want to address is not so much the end product of what a commentator will say, but also like the intentions of what would lead for a person to focus on a particular player or a move set in a particular moment. So, for example, VG Bootcamp actually has some restrictions that Apostle will bring up if you do commentate on their stream. Respectable, because they are catering to younger kids and they want to keep theirs family friendly as possible, and I respect that. So the two rules they will give you, of course, are the regular, don't swear on this stream, and also to keep the commentary positive. And so if I have to keep the commentary positive, what I'm really aiming for is looking for little tidbits where one player is doing well, they're making a good decision, and once in a while I may just have a player for a whole 2 stocks in a row just do really well, make all the reads, make the plays, keep stage control, and I'm going to point that out for a minute 30 seconds. So when you take a step back, you may look at me and say why is this person only talking about this player for a minute and 30 seconds? It's because I'm focusing on good play, because I don't want to point out that this other player doesn't have any tech skill, that he's doing bad, he's making awful decisions, why is he throwing out that forward smash, because I want to keep it positive. But if we were to flip the roles and that player B that wasn't being talked about started playing well and started making good decisions, then I would start pointing that out. I would say, wow, look at the adjustments he's making. Oh, he's starting to clean up the tech skill, he's starting to get the reads, and I would start focusing on that. So there is certain type of moments where it is okay to talk about one player on the screen. If they are doing the play, they're executing the combo, to be excited for it. That's not bias. What I will say for this is this: that if you switch the roles of the two people in hand, if it doesn't come out even, then yes, that is bias. And so what I mean by this is, of course, I think the obvious example here is Mango. Regardless, if he is on a win streak, he's on a losing streak, whether he's winning, whether he's playing aggressive, whether he's playing passive, he is the main character of a Smash tournament. And, to be fair, he has the largest following. Most people in their minds are rooting for Mango. He has an exciting play style, but it doesn't excuse, having a high level of bias. And this is where it kind of comes in, because, granted, a lot of people that commentate, are also friends of Mango, and so likely their natural excitement, the way they react to things, are going to be a lot different than, let's say, if they're reacting to Armada or Plub. And so that's the kind of thing I do want to address, and I think the root cause of that issue is when you make one player the protagonist of the event and you completely ignore the other guy. And what needs to happen to, I think, adjust that, I know that, and I don't want to put my friends on blast, I think, admittedly, Scar and Toph have gone a lot better at not being blatantly one-sided in Mango's favor. And you can see that a lot, although Scar still does get genuinely excited for Mango, he is, gotten a lot better than that. But I think the issue is the protagonist thing, where one player is the hero of the tournament and the other player isn't. And the way I think we could balance it here is not by making one person by default the protagonist, but by mainly highlighting good play and complimenting and saying, well, look at Plub. Oh my gosh, he's controlling the stage so well. He's doing these nairs to cut Mango off. Oh my gosh, he got another kill. He might win this. As opposed to saying, oh no, Mango's gonna lose. I hope he can bring it back. When you make the story all about one person, I think that's where the bias comes from, and I think that's a really fair complaint, and that's something Armada has complained about too. And it's not to say you can't get excited too, either. I'm not. I think what happens is a lot of people associate having bias. If you have any sort of emotion towards a player, that is by default bias. I totally disagree. I think you'd be really emotionally excited about the game and what's at stake and what's at hand here without being biased. I don't think those are two mutually exclusive things. Now, I guess a tough curveball here, and this is something that we could talk about on the YouTube channel, we could put this on comments, is, well, what if the audience, has a certain energy to it? And I think that's one thing that goes underrated about Scar and Toph, as opposed to every other commentator, is that they can catch the energy in the room. And the prime example I could give is Genesis 3, when Mango was playing through losers. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that Mango, like 90% of the audience wanted to see Mango versus Armada finals. I don't think I'm exaggerating here. And if a commentator like Homemade Waffles says, like, everybody here wants Armada versus Mango finals, let's go Mango, I think that is actually okay to a certain extent, because if you're expressing what's the energy of this room and what the people want, I think it reflects the environment. Of course, there needs to be some lines drawn, and it's still trying to figure out like what that line is. But these are just my thoughts on commentary bias. I think ultimately, if we were to come with a solution here, think of something practical that we could do. I think we're all open to feedback. I think Scar's doing a great job at receiving feedback, and I think his commentary's gone a lot better. But I think the main issue we have is the protagonistic effect, where we make one player, usually Mango, the main character of a tournament, and everything centers around him, where it's like, oh, Mango did a nice combo, like he's gonna win this match, or oh crap, Mango's gonna lose, like he might lose this match. And when we make one person the center focus of everything, regardless of what the other player is doing, I think that's where it becomes an issue. So those are my thoughts. If you guys have your own thoughts to share, go ahead and comment on the YouTube channel, and I really hope that this starts a pretty healthy conversation. I think that we could do better, and I think that we will continue to improve, and I hope that nobody hates a commentator. I think communication's key, and I think we can continue to get better.